Hey, y'all, and welcome back to Native Soil. We continue season 5, reflecting on youth ministry, and we've got one of the giants, one of the greats of our archdiocese with us today, Ann Palamara.
Oh, that's very kind.
Welcome to Native Soil.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Ann comes to us from Holy Redeemer in Eufaula, and our paths crossed many moons ago when I was a wee seminarian, and it's really special to have you be here today. So thanks for making the effort.
Thank
you. We'll get into all that,
yes,
but why don't we just start by you telling everybody a little bit about where you're from,
okay,
and your family and things like that.
Okay, well, originally I'm from a little town called Berry Center in Western New York. I grew up on a dairy farm. I always said I had the best of both worlds because my father was a cradle Catholic and my mother was a convert to the Catholicism.
Oh, wow.
So my father made sure we got to confession on Saturdays, made sure we got to Mass, made sure we got our sacraments. I mean, he was wonderful about that. And my mother taught us our prayer life and just our spiritual well-being. And I had an older sister, an older brother, and a younger sister. And my older sister died when I was 15 in a car accident. And that really was a life-changing experience for all of us. I was 15, and I was just amazed that my parents still wanted to go to church.
Right.
You know, they did not lose their faith. They strengthened their faith.
Wow.
But I had a wonderful Catholic bringing up. And one story I'm going to share with you is my father was a dairy farmer, had to milk the cows every morning at 4:00. Sunday mornings, we had breakfast together because it was a 3-hour fast before 9:00 Mass.
Right.
Everybody at the table, bacon and eggs breakfast, 3 hours. It doesn't take 3 hours to eat. So we have a blackboard in our kitchen and we played hangman.
No kidding.
With my father, we played.
That's fun.
And my mother didn't do the dishes. We just got up and went to church, and it was just our Sunday routine. So Sunday was special.
Right.
Church was special.
You'd look forward to that.
Absolutely.
So what time are y'all eating breakfast at, like?
6.
That's it. Okay.
Yeah, a 3-hour fast.
Yeah,
you got to
right.
get to town.
That's amazing. So that was Sunday. You'd wake up, have this awesome breakfast, and then play hangman with mom and dad
till it was time to go to church,
and then zip on down.
Yes.
How far was the church? Was that like a haul?
Like 15 miles.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that wasn't too bad.
Yeah, I was one of the country kids. There were city kids and country kids. I was the country kid. Yeah.
So when your sister died, were you kind of wrestling? I mean, I'm sure you must have had that why God moment, and then how did your parents' reaction to it? It sounds like the way that they responded to it made a big impact on you.
Totally did. I was 15, so I was in that snotty teenage era of my life,
right.
You know, and it was and my brother and sister were very close. My brother and I were not, you know, but we did become close over the years. But just to see my parents struggle through that together. I mean, the next morning, I came downstairs and my father was holding my mother on his lap and while she was sobbing. And it was just a beautiful image I'll never forget, that you stay together during tragedy.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. So
that is. Anyway,
it certainly, they didn't lose their faith. We went to church like 2 days later and went, what? We're going to church? Aren't we? I mean, this just happened. Why are we going to church? But we did.
Right.
You know, it's just, they turned to the church.
Yeah, that's such a powerful encounter,
yes.
With the love of Christ. And maybe you didn't articulate in the mind, but to see your father and mother love each other that way and turn to Christ in such a difficult moment, I'm sure it spoke more than any lesson, that, wow, there's something bigger than ourselves that holds us,
yes,
in life, in life and in death, there's something that can sustain us.
Yes. Yes.
That's powerful. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah. I think it was Janet Maslin who used to say, is she would question us sometimes at meetings, is faith caught or taught? Well, it's caught.
Right.
A lot of the times.
No, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So obviously your parents were great examples of the faith. Yes. They taught you the faith and you kind of caught the faith from their amazing example. Were you also involved in a youth group of any sort, or did you go to Catholic school, or how, what were the other factors that kind of helped you to hold on to your faith?
There was a Catholic school We did not go to the Catholic school. We went to public school. But because our church was so big and we're such a majority in the small town I grew up in, this public schools would, 2:00 on Wednesdays, everybody went to study hall except the Catholic kids. And we would walk to faith formation at the church, which was about a mile away.
Right.
And then on Wednesday nights, they had CYO. And my parents did try to get us there, but we were a farming family and we lived out in the country. I was kind of jealous of the kids that got to go to church every day.
Right.
And then I had a friend who actually worked in the convent and cooked for the sisters.
Really?
So that was fun.
That is neat.
After our Wednesday night or Wednesday afternoon things, I would sometimes go with her to the convent. But as far as a youth group, no, there was not a youth group as such, CYO. But I can't remember service projects or trips. I cannot.
Right. CYO was more of kind of a social type thing, or maybe sports or something like that.
We met in the Lyceum upstairs and social events. Yeah, Catholic youth organization.
Did you ever think about being a sister, like going and seeing those nuns with your friend?
I think everybody thinks about it, but it wasn't a serious. I did not discern out.
Right.
Did not discern in.
Right. Yeah. Just kind of noticed it.
Yeah, I did. The sisters were great though. They were.
Well, that's neat. And then on the dairy farm, would y'all have all had chores? I'm guessing.
Oh my goodness.
Y'all would have daily.
Oh, we did.
Y'all be help milking the cows and
we would be helping mostly with the crops and the hay and picking up stones, getting the fields ready.
Right.
Yes, we
that's
did.
Neat.
A lot of chores.
So you had a full life. I mean, you were out there on the farm. You're traveling back and forth, but because of that, participating in church activities outside of that catechism kind of at the end of the school day was kind of limited.
That was limited.
Right.
But church always played an important part in our family's life. Right. It was absolutely not going to go today. None of that.
It's amazing to hear that relationship with the public schools and the church.
Yeah.
I know I have some friends who are priests up in the Northeast, and they still have that in some places, which seems, being down here in Alabama, kind of otherworldly, to think about leaving public school to go to catechism class.
Yeah.
But it was pretty neat.
It was. Yeah.
So you grew up on the dairy farm up in New York, and then somehow life brought you to Eufaula, Alabama.
Yes.
How did that happen?
I was married and divorced, and I had 2 girls, and I was home living with my parents for 7 years. During that time, I took my kids to church, of course, and I began to get a little involved with their faith formation on a volunteer basis.
Right.
But I met my husband, Tom, somewhere along then, and we came to the South because of his job. There was bauxite clay, which was important to the process that they were making. Carboceramics was making a man-made sand. Okay. So they moved us to Alabama for 2 years, and we've been here over 30.
Wow. And was that in Eufaula? Was that your first place you came?
Yes. I've only lived in 2 places, Western New York and Eufaula, Alabama.
That is incredible. And it's because of our soil.
Yeah, because of the soil.
Because of our native soil.
Yes.
The Lord literally brought you here.
Oh, it's a journey.
Because of the soil.
I will tell you about the journey at the end.
Okay. Yep. So so bauxite clay is plentiful in Eufaula?
Yes, there's mines. If you've not been to a bauxite clay mine, you need to go. The pool in the bottom is beautiful.
Okay.
Yes, they're beautiful. Yep.
So that's what brought y'all here.
Yes, and my husband retired from that company after 35 years.
And what year would that have been? Like when y'all first?
1983. We got here January 1st, 1983.
Right. So I know you as a youth minister.
Yep.
You were the youth minister at Holy Redeemer when I was there. I think that would have been around 2010.
Yep.
When I came, about 2010.
Yes.
And when I showed up, you were the youth minister.
I was.
How did you fall into that role, or did you? How did that happen?
I actually fell into the role. I was the parish secretary. Father David Shoemaker at that time was our pastor and still is.
Right.
And we had a teenager write to, I think, the parish council, saying other churches in town have a youth group. If we had a youth group, I think this person had gotten into a little trouble after a retreat, a day retreat in Dothan, I think. And the excuse was, if we had had a youth group, because the mountains and the valleys and all that. Oh, yeah. And Father David and I were talking about it in the office one day, and you've been in our office. It's a house.
Right.
And I said, well, if he was interested in doing something about it. And I said, if you just need someone to sit here for 2 hours, while they're in the kitchen playing games or eating snacks, I said, I'll volunteer to do that. And then it just evolved from there with Father David's support, of course. He's wonderful. In fact, he is leading the youth group now.
Right.
He's all about helping and supporting. He's been wonderful.
So when would that conversation have taken place?
Probably around 2006.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So 2006. And before that, had you had any experience with youth group or?
Well, I did a faith formation almost instantly after we got to Eufaula.
Right.
And I started with my daughter, who was like 13. And then I taught confirmation classes for both of my boys, after that. But I stayed with younger children mostly. But whenever there was something going on with the young people, we would certainly help with transportation, things like that. The senior high group, they got to do things, and we would take them. They did go on a retreat. Our girls did, yeah. But on the peripheral, I would help out when needed.
Well, I think that's beautiful for people listening because you served in that ministry for a number of years, and it wasn't something you went looking for.
Absolutely not.
It's not something that you had like special training for necessarily, but it's something the Lord kind of opened. There was a need.
There was a need.
And, you responded to that call. So I think that those out there listening, be open to how the Lord might want to work.
Exactly.
Because it's not always the people who, set out to go get a youth ministry degree and come back and do all this. Mm-hmm. The Lord uses those people, but a lot of times it's people like yourself who you're involved in the church, you love the Lord, and you respond to a need.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So you went into it thinking that you will chaperone while kids eat snacks.
Yes.
Why did you stay in it for so long?
Because
what was it about it that kept you in there?
I just loved the age group. I loved the kids, and I got so much out of it. And when it did turn into where we would have like a 15-minute lesson or whatever first, you just learn so much. Right. When you're trying to lead and teach, you've got to look up stuff. You've got to remember, And so I just enjoyed that. They just fed me, and they're so creative. I was in awe of the young people's creativity, just in awe of it. I was asked one time at a retreat at Holy Trinity, and I don't even remember who the presenter was or why the question was asked. But if you were told you had to make that horse fly, what would you do? And I was like, well, that's easy. I'd tell the youth group. They'd figure it out. They'd figure out how to make a horse fly. They were just awesome. Yeah. And I loved it. And I had lots of help along the way.
Right.
Julia Wilson, she was a retired cardiologist from Canada who did not have children.
Right.
And she was just curious about the young people and what they were thinking. And that was fun to have them tell why they thought this show was funny.
Right.
And she'd say, is that, you find that amusing, or music. She bought her first Eminem tape because of the kid. Yeah. So I had lots of help. And because we are a transient community, even though we're top heavy with retirement people in a small community, we are a family. But we did have some young people that would come in and intern places and then move on, maybe stay a year or two, and they would come to the youth group. So there was always somebody coming in to help. So the kids got not just me.
Right.
They had lots of help.
But I think that's another great point, is because when you step forward in faith, you kind of create a wake for other people to come forward,
Mm-hmm.
But it takes the courage of that first person to kind of build it.
Yes.
Kind of like if they build it, they will come. But
Yeah.
I think that's a great thing for people listening too. You kind of had faith and stepped forward, but then the Lord brought different people
Absolutely.
with Julie and these different young people in town. You
Yeah.
didn't know when or how these people would come, but
No.
me being there, you kind of see these people come out of the woodwork.
Yes. And there was a quote that I read August 1st, actually, from I Give Us This Day, or The Word Among Us. It says we can follow the disciples' example and bring the little we do have to Jesus. He will bless our efforts and use them to meet the needs of the people. You don't have to feed every person. Just start caring for the people in front of you.
Beautiful.
And I think that's true. I mean, I loved the kids. I loved them.
Yeah.
And we provided a safe place for them.
Right.
And I was the trusted adult. And I wasn't their parent.
Right. Why was that? Why do you think that's important? Why do you think it's important for young people to have another adult in their life that's not the parent, but somebody they can trust?
Because it could be just a generational thing.
Right.
You know, I'm not sure. Kids cannot be themselves, probably, with their parents sitting there. A good example was my son went all through Cub Scouts with me. I did everything to make Cub Scouts happen. He took a year off, a gap year in 6th grade, whatever. Right. And then his friend said, let's go to Boy Scouts. And he looked at me and he goes, okay, but this time I'm doing it for fun. So that was a good lesson for me.
Right.
You know,
you got to give them a little space.
Yeah, step back.
Right.
Yeah.
What was it like ministering to kids in such a small town? What was maybe the advantage of it? Like maybe did you find maybe was unique, like when you compare notes to other youth ministers, and what was maybe, a challenge?
Well, that's a good question. The advantage of it, I think, is because they're such a minority in Eufaula.
Right.
That there was a place where they could go, and we did not have social divisions within our group.
Right.
They were a family there.
Right.
So when they did go to the high school, they could see each other, and I would tell them, smile. You don't have to, you don't have to have lunch together or whatever, but if you see each other, smile.
Right.
You just kind of look out for each other.
Yeah.
So I think that was an advantage there. One of the challenges, of course, is transportation. Competing with sports schedules.
Right.
Transportation mostly. There's a lot of kids that probably would come if we had a bus.
Right.
I would leave the house at 5 some days. I had a van with 7 extra seat belts. I'd leave at 5. Sometimes I wouldn't get home till 10 o'clock at night, but I would pick the kids up and bring them.
Right.
So that's a challenge. Money is a challenge. Father was very supportive about about what we did, but we tried to do things on a budget.
Right.
Like Water World on the half price nights.
Right. Yeah,
and we would do our fundraisers for ACYC. That's why we do fundraisers, is to get to ACYC. Because I believe that the more you can get the kids to Mobile, to deanery events, to archdiocesan events, the better for them to see the Catholic culture outside of Eufaula. I think is so important.
To realize what they're a part of.
Oh my gosh, yes. It's the bigger church. Yeah, I think that's very important.
Right.
I enjoyed that. Moving to the South, I did not have that in the Buffalo Archdiocese, at least the church that we were at.
Right.
But yes, and Eufaula for sure.
No, that is, I definitely saw those same things from just being there as a summer and then visiting over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And another aspect too is that family aspect of, you have, the parish is really about, Anglo, Hispanic.
Oh, it's wonderful.
And, there's a lot of diversity there, but the youth group was kind of a place where that melting pot would happen. I think in a unique way in Eufaula. And you're talking about, okay, not every kid had transport, some kids are coming from trailer park, some kids are coming from this neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, that was a unique challenge, but also a unique blessing to see y'all make these special efforts to bring kids together.
Yeah.
And then you see this mix of, okay, you got the popular, you got the nerdy, you got the Hispanic, you got the Anglo, but they're all
together.
All together.
Yes. They were the bridge. They were the bridge between the two communities. And when we would do like our simple supper or the talent show, we would have everybody in the hall at once, instead of English Mass and Spanish Mass, So I really did enjoy that. And I think too, in youth ministry, that it's important for them. Yes, you have to teach them, but I think they have to be busy together, like counting money from Rice Bowl was like one of their favorite nights.
Yeah.
They're doing a chore, they're doing a little service, but they're talking, making the soup for simple supper, chopping the onions.
Yeah.
They're just in the kitchen talking, and that's when a lot of community and family happens.
Yeah. I like that. Because too, it's listening to talks and all, but I think it is nice to do something concrete.
Oh Always.
You know, like,
Yes.
okay, we counted this money and it helped somebody. We chopped this food, it helped
We
somebody.
filled those Easter eggs.
Yeah, we filled those Easter eggs
We
for
hid the Easter
right.
eggs. We watched the children find the Easter eggs. Yeah.
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 No, I think that is. And to have moments of service, like hands-on service, I think is
Mhm.
very integrating. That's come up in other interviews of,
Yes.
you know, you have fun, you have talks, you have prayer,
Yeah.
but you also have like concrete moments of service, of
Sure.
charity that
Mhm.
kind of grounds a lot of it.
Yeah. Mhm.
Um, so y'all have had a lot of seminarians roll through
Oh,
over the years.
we love every one
And
of them. Oh my gosh.
what has that been like, and particularly in relationship to the youth group? Have it and I guess part of that is, how have you seen kind of the youth group, like being part of the youth group, form the seminarians?
Well, I think the seminarians, when they come to Eufaula, I'm not sure about this, but I think they get the feel that it's a family because we have elderly, we have babies, we have the mix, and I think they feel that it is a family feel, and I think that's good for the seminarians to be able to interact with all age groups.
Right.
I do, and it's just a blessing to the youth because I think it's so good for them to see a peer who is considering has agreed to discern
Right.
whether a vocation is for them or not. We met every Wednesday through the summer as well, you know. So a lot of times that's when I would travel. The seminarian would be there
Take over.
to help out. Yeah, and then of course there's Vacation Bible School. The father they would have a project to all work
Oh
together.
yeah.
Yeah, and that was fun. I was not that involved in Vacation Bible School because of travel schedules a lot,
Right.
but man, they just took it over and it was great. Yeah.
And that seems to be part of the dynamic too of y'all's youth group helping to put on Vacation Bible School. I've
Yes.
seen that in a number of parishes, and I think that's a nice dynamic because it gives young people a chance to disciple
Sure.
those younger kids, to kind of put their faith into action and have to share it
Right.
with them. And
And like I said, you learn when you teach. So we would do like in a story, we had a reconciliation retreat that the teens led.
right,
And one boy, Bobby, who was no one would volunteer to role play the sacrament of confession.
right,
Nobody would do it. So finally, BJ offered to be the priest, and a young boy who was not Catholic offered to be the penitent. He's Catholic now.
no kidding, no kidding,
Bobby, he's
yeah,
Catholic now.
isn't that amazing?
So you learn when you teach.
Right,
So the more you can get them to teach or to lead, yeah, it's better for them.
it is.
Yeah.
You can't underestimate just a moment like that.
Yeah.
Just to step
Yeah.
out and be part of that dynamic, to be part of that skit or that teaching.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, this kid becomes Catholic,
Yeah.
and that was
Mm-hmm.
a piece of, I know,
Yep.
they were friends and he was coming to the youth group,
Yeah.
but, yeah, you can't underestimate the impact that has. That's such an amazing story.
Uh,
What would you say is your, kind of philosophy of youth ministry, or what kind of culture were you trying to create, while you were there? You're checking your cheat sheet?
Yeah, I am checking my cheat sheet here. I know it's here. Um, to be a family. And I would tell them, if you ask them just on the phone one day last week, I said, "What have I said? You have to love everyone. You don't have to like them." I mean, they
Right.
would just hear that over and over again.
Right.
I think just to be a safe place, a place where they can not going to be judged.
Right.
You know, um, yeah.
Well, that is a
And
great
and
go ahead.
also I think they should play together. I think you should allow a lot of social time, because we have had times when you have your lesson and just kind of
Right. Right.
and then they get the cards out to play Uno, and then there's so much chatter around the table and it's so much fun.
Right.
So they do have to have playtime and dance. We dance,
Yeah, right.
music, singing. Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
remember doing some Wii dance,
Yeah.
competitions when I was there.
Yeah.
So what is it about play that you think helps them to grow in their relationship with Christ and with one another? Like, why do you think you have to have that in the mix for them to be able to kind of absorb the gospel?
Well, because I think because they laugh together. I mean,
Yeah.
I can still see some of them doing their crazy
Mhm.
dance motions, and it's just all in good fun. And it's, again, like I said, I keep saying a safe place they could just be themselves,
Yes.
and just know they're in a place where they're loved.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know if that answers the question, but
No, it's so good.
yeah,
We've had other youth ministers say the same. It's just so
yeah,
important for young people to know and to experience that they're accepted, that they're loved,
yeah.
that they are worth people's time,
Mm-hmm.
and that very much kind of fertilizes the soil so that
Yep.
when the word of Christ is preached,
Exactly.
they're able to receive it because they have a
Yeah.
sense of, okay, it's okay that I am here.
Yeah.
It's
Mm-hmm.
okay that all my quirks and all my strengths and
Yeah.
weaknesses is here.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think that there's a lot of
Yeah.
wisdom in what you're saying.
And what we did one time for a while, was we did, oh, we would assign the gospel. We would let them volunteer. Who would like to look at the gospel for the next Sunday, and take that and give us your take on it on Wednesday, and they would do that. And
Right.
that was fun because we sat in a circle, it was a safe place. They would read the gospel. They would tell us what they got out of it, and then we would go on. And it was I remember Jacob Boyce's, I wasn't going to say a name. He talked about the light under the bushel basket, and he brought a light and he brought a bushel basket. And it was just, the way the light, with his artist ability, talking about the different way the light diffused. And I'll never forget
Yeah.
it.
That's so powerful.
And we always ended every evening with a God moment, where in a circle again. And if you could contribute if you wanted. But where did you see God in your life this week?
Wonderful.
Just so that they would know that God's working even when they don't know
Right.
that he is. Just it could be an A on an exam. So, well, did you pray before the exam?
Yeah,
Those kind
right.
of things. So we tried to make them see where God was working.
No, I love
Yeah.
that because
Yeah.
I do that a lot too with my discernment groups and
Yeah.
meet with people to say, where's one way you encounter Christ in your
Yes.
life?
Yeah.
Because it
Yeah.
just helps you to see this is a relationship. This is an event. This is an ongoing. This is a part of my life,
Ever. It's a
and just to be able to
journey. Oh,
acknowledge, where the Lord
yeah.
is so key.
Yeah.
Do you have like a favorite youth ministry story? Just like a moment where you really you got to see a heart changed or
Yes. Yes. I have two.
okay,
Because another question was an off the wall one, and
yeah,
that was a funny one. But this one, we did a Catholic Relief Services food fast one year. We did several, but this one was on immigration, and as you know, that is an issue in the area that
very
we
relevant,
live.
right?
Very, yes. Jesus was an immigrant. So one of our participants came late that day. We didn't ask why. And we were praying around the statue of Mary in the hall, and all of a sudden, this young person shared that the father was in the deportation center in Lumpkin, and they had been able to go visit because they had been born in the U.S. But we had no idea that this was happening with that family, and still getting the chills over that. I mean, we were talking about immigration and the hardships, and here's a family in our own parish, and we did not know what they were going through, and it was just awesome. It was just a moment that child needed.
Right.
I hope that child always remembers that, and then we could reach out to the family. And when we did, the mother just sobbed. We just said, "Oh, this was so big. Why didn't you? This was so big. You didn't
Mhm.
have to handle this on your own.
Right.
This was so big." And then that retreat, we ended that fast after 9 o'clock mass with food.
Mhm.
But before the mass, we went into the church and we prayed the immigration rosary. There was like a paragraph for each decade of the rosary. And when people came into mass and heard the young people praying, leading the rosary and reading the reflections, we got many remarks on that, like, wow,
Mhm.
yeah. So that was, yeah,
That is
that was
powerful.
powerful.
And the fact
Yeah.
that she felt comfortable enough with that
Yes.
group.
She probably wasn't supposed to tell anybody.
Yeah, but she felt that y'all were her
Yes.
family,
Yes.
and probably because y'all had
Whoa.
danced together and played Uno together and counted coins together
Yeah.
and had God moments shared.
Yes.
And so then when this real moment
Whoa.
came for her to
Mhm.
be able to share that, like what a blessing for you and that group to be trusted,
Exactly.
and then for y'all to be able to, support her and her mom
Yes.
and, their
Yeah.
family.
Yeah. That was I remember leaving the building after after we're on a break and just calling a friend, one of my good friends from church, and I was crying. You won't believe what happened. You won't believe this.
Yeah. You can feel the Holy Spirit kind of pressing in sometimes.
That's why we did the food fast on immigration on that day. Yeah. So,
and that was the theme of
immigration.
Immigration, and so the Lord kind of aligned all that
it did.
To support them.
So many times in my life, but that time,
incredible,
particularly, yeah. And the crazy off the wall one.
Yeah.
Okay, so we were doing. We would do Generations of Faith, where once a month everybody would learn together.
Right.
And the youth group was doing the food. Great. So one of our helpers, Keith Council, brought this huge glass casserole, potato casserole. We put it in the oven. We were busy making sausage gravy and baking biscuits. I went to put the biscuits in the oven. I took the casserole out. I set it on top of a pot on the countertop because I didn't want to burn the countertop. Turned my back, and all of a sudden there was an explosion. Literally an explosion off the wall. Potato casserole, hot, cheesy potatoes everywhere. We were wearing it. It was on the food. The glass was on the food and the counter, and we were speechless. We were speechless for probably 30 seconds. Nobody could believe what happened, and then I just said, "Is everybody okay?" Yes. And I said, "Okay, something scientific just happened. I don't know what it was." And then one of the kids said, "If we hadn't just lost that casserole, I would say this was the most awesome thing I ever saw." And we just had, what a mess. Yeah. What a mess. We got it cleaned up. We picked glass out of
everybody's hair.
Yes, and we went on and we got lots of compliments on our meal. But
there you go. But the youth group was making breakfast for the parish on one of those days.
We were. They're just scurrying around the kitchen.
That's
doing
so
this,
funny.
do this, and then I can still hear it, and I can still see how I'm going to clean this up.
Right. So maybe all that heat got trapped in that pot. And
it did. Well, and the pot was empty, so we put the hot dish on a room temperature pot. Something scientific. I still don't know what.
Right.
But man, what a mess.
That's funny. It's probably a great memory for everyone
They'll
now.
all remember that.
Yeah, that is fun. But that's so cool too. I mean, even in that moment, everybody's there doing something concrete to serve the parish.
Yeah.
And crazy stuff happens, but it's nice. It's nice to share the messiness of life with other people.
It was messy.
It's always messy.
Always.
But it's fun to have other people that can, laugh about it with you.
Yes.
Yeah. Otherwise, it gets too heavy.
It does.
Do you have any advice that you would give? Let's say people are listening from different parishes. Do you have any advice you'd give to other youth ministers out there, or people who are, thinking about getting involved in youth ministry?
I would say just do it, because I certainly wasn't trained or qualified, but it has been such a benefit to me. And I think a benefit to the kids. I hear back from some of them. You always say somebody needs to hear what you're saying. Even if one person in the room hears one thing and remembers it was worth it.
Right.
So you just have to go with that. And I heard you earlier saying about planting a seed. That's what we're doing. We're planting seeds. We're lighting pilot lights. And if we don't do it, who will?
Right.
So I just think do it. Just go ahead and do it. Just jump out of your comfort zone. You will get so much out of it.
Right.
Get them to retreats. Get them to deanery events. Get them to ACYC. Do the One Faith, One Family. Gosh, Tom and I love that.
Right.
That event. Food's important.
Yes, food is very important.
Food is important, and make time for fun.
Right.
Make time for play. Make time for those busy activities. When we do the simple suppers, the kids have to we use real bowls, real spoons, real glasses. It's soup and water. But they have to do the dishes. And I just stay in, and they would do the dishes. And a new boy walked in. And they said, "Well, come on and help me." He goes, "Well, I don't know where anything goes." I said, "Well, this is when you learn." And then just to hear those kids cleaning up the kitchen was just, and they're so creative.
Right.
They are so creative. Yeah.
No, that's great advice. That's really good advice. Just jump in there. Jump in there.
Just do it. Yep.
Figure it out. No, you're not alone. Like there's the diocese has a number of events to help support you, and there's the whole youth ministry office that's there to help you. And
yes. Now, when we had the Dothan Deanery office and then the Montgomery office, I was much more connected. I have aged out as far as technology, and it's okay. But I did enjoy those monthly meetings. First of all with Sister Penny, and then Janet would come. Then we're probably not monthly then. Well, way back when it was monthly, the Dothan Deanery Faith Formation people would get together.
Right.
But that's important for us adults as well, not just the youth. Is to
Right.
meet people from other parishes, other leaders.
Right.
Just the
And be able to
community. Yeah, you're in it
be able
together.
to share and encourage each other and share
Yes.
what's working, what's not working,
Yes.
pray with
Yes.
each other, encourage each other.
And Father allowed us, well, of course he allowed us,
Mm.
have a net retreat. And so we invited other churches to come.
Right.
When you do something, invite the churches in your area. And we have also gone to Montgomery for things. We went to Birmingham for a drumline retreat with Sister Terry Bretthauer, who had been at Blessed Trinity.
Oh, no kidding.
Somehow she was also Faith Formation in Montgomery office for a while. So you hear about things and you take them. Keith Council and I took the kids to a World Youth Day event in Kentucky.
Wow.
We drove up for it, and they live streamed it or whatever on the screen, and we camped out in the field. We hiked in, we camped out in the field. You find out about these opportunities.
Right.
We went to a youth day at a theme park in Georgia. It was only for Catholic youth that day. I found that out through my connections with other people. So stay connected to the bigger church.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's such good advice.
Yeah.
What would you say you've gotten out of all your years in youth ministry? What's been the reward of it, or the grace?
When they call, when the kids call, and the kids listen to me. The kids, they're adults now, and they're having they're getting married and they're having children, and not everybody's been a success story, but that they still remember. And I had one call me to talk about a retreat he went on, and his favorite reading was always The Lost Sheep. And he goes, I thought of you, Miss Ann, So just knowing that you made a difference,
Yeah.
I think is a good thing. And also I knew when it was time. I had some health issues. My daughter had some health issues, but it was time to back off
Right.
because the world is changing and I don't want to be in that fast world yet.
Right. Well, no, you realize, everything, there's different seasons in our life where, we're able to keep up with certain things, but then the Lord kind of has different
Yes.
seasons for us. But
Yeah.
what were some things you noticed, like with the young people, you're like, this might be time. This seems beyond my,
Well, we talked a little bit about it before we
Yeah.
started, the culture, I guess the culture. This is the first time I've done anything like this. I don't Zoom. I
right.
don't, I'm just not technically there, and I'm okay with that.
Right.
I am okay. It was funny. I have a flip phone. It's in my pocket, and one of the teens taught me how to text on my flip phone.
Right.
How long ago? Well, I happened to run into her or something, and I gave her the phone to text something. She goes, I don't know. I said, yes, you do. You taught me.
Yeah.
So things have changed so fast.
Yeah.
They have. But, the transgender issues, the pronoun issues, all I don't know how we're going to guide our young people
Right.
through that. We're going to love them through that somehow, and we will.
Right. But that landscape is
Just don't know how, and
Right.
that's like maybe beyond I can't wrap my head around it, so I think it's beyond me.
right. Well, no, I think there's wisdom in that, but I think it is a very real. I think we're all seeing, the things that young people are facing
Oh my
are
gosh.
so unprecedented, whether it's social media, whether it's just what's all out on the internet,
Yeah. Mhm.
like these questions of gender identity, of sexuality, of orientation.
Yes.
They're only becoming more complex. So it's I think that challenges all of us. We have
Yes.
to be able to kind of love and meet people where they are.
I will
And
do that.
and
Yep.
uh,
I can do that.
but exactly how exactly is a challenge for all of us.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
well, what a gift, to sit down with you, and I'm just so thankful for you and thankful for all the years you've given to the church and your family, and like you said, you've got a big family yourself, but you've been very generous in kind of creating these new families with all these young people over the years.
Yeah.
And I just think that's such a blessing.
When we have had the opportunities, of course, to move, you think about that as your parents age and all that.
Right.
But we say our family's in Holy Redeemer. we've said that for decades now.
Yeah.
Our family, we don't want to go to New York and live. This is where our family is. And one of the thing about I think it's the diocese as well. I grew up in the Diocese of Buffalo. I did not know my bishop's name. He did not know me. Archbishop Lipscomb, Archbishop Rhodey, they knew me. I knew them.
Right.
They're approachable. I just think that the whole Southern hospitality, I don't know if you hear about that, but
Yeah.
that's just, it was where we feel home. We feel comfortable with that.
No, that's wonderful. That's a great thing to mention. I think we are so blessed in our archdiocese. We can complain and wish things were better, and things could always be better. But I think we really are blessed to have that family feel,
yes,
and to have that sense of connectedness. And I think you saying that's such a great tribute to that, and the fact that soil brought you here.
Absolutely.
And now this really is your native soil. You think of it as just as important as where you're born, and just as it really is your family. I think it's definitely like native soil par excellence kind of conversation. The fact that you see your parish so much so as your family, that this is where you're choosing to live. I think that's for everyone listening. I think that's such a beautiful testimony, and such a challenge for all of us to consider of, the Lord, obviously there's times where we have to move but just to reflect and say, all right, Lord, where are you calling me to be? And if I am going to be here, how can I live here in such a way that it really is like my family? It really is like my native soil that is very precious to me, and that I'm willing to go to any length possible to breathe life into it, to contribute to it. And you and your family are such a wonderful witness to that, and such a great example, I think, for everyone listening. So, one last question. With all that said,
okay,
let's talk about soil.
Okay, the soil.
So, what kind of soil do we have here, and why'd you choose it?
Well, I almost brought two, but when like I said before, when I was 25, I was at home, a single mom, and I just had a very bad day. My 25th birthday, I remember it clearly, and I was out stomping in the fields, and I thought, okay, I'll bring dirt from Western New York. And I had a real good conversation with God that day. And that was the day I owned my religion for myself, not because it was what my parents told me to do or that I had to do. It was mine, my faith. And I never looked back. And I started getting involved with my children, my girls, my young girls then, with their faith formation. And a sister moved into our parish named Sister Rose Gregory. And she got me involved in like divorced Catholics, which my brother just totally laughed at. What the heck? But anyway, I started the annulment procedure. I'm never getting married again, sister. Oh, but we need someone to do this. We need someone to set the example. So anyway, I started that whole procedure. Met Tom. How about that? Didn't know.
At that group?
Well, no, not at that group, but met him about that time.
Okay.
Yes. And we did get married. And the annulment had not gotten through yet. But anyway, we got married. And then the transfer came up from he was working in Niagara Falls to Southeast Alabama. They were going to build a plant using bauxite clay to make a man-made sand. Moving. Well, okay. So I ran into sister in town, literally ran into her. And I said, they're moving us to some god-awful place called Eufaula, Alabama. And Sister Rose looked at me and said, you're going to love it. And you're going to love the priest. She was a Trinitarian sister. She knew Father Killian.
Oh, wow.
She knew right where we were going.
Wow.
How about that?
That is amazing.
How about that? I mean, I never asked her what order she was. She just said, you're going to love it. They're going to love you. So we came down and looked, and we felt at home. We went into Holy Redeemer with our girls to look at the city. And we came out, and all four of us said, this feels like home.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, that gives me chills.
I know, it did. It's a true story, and that's exactly what happened. Well, then the annulment did come through, and we got here in January. The annulment came through. So we were going to go back up for spring break. But anyway, I called Father Killian. He was our pastor here in Eufaula. And I said, my annulment came through. Will you bless our marriage? And he's, no, I called the priest in Albion. And he said, no. He said, you need to do it where your parish is going to be. How about that?
Wow.
So, and at that time, we went back in March. There was 800 families in the church I grew up in. I knew more people in my small hometown parish in Eufaula after 3 months than I did in the church I grew up in.
Wow.
So it's home. Anyway, long story short, I began getting more involved, and my faith really took off in Holy Redeemer. And it was all because of bauxite clay. And it was a journey, and the Lord brought me here. He did, clearly. Brought me bauxite clay.
Right.
Brought me here. And it's a journey. I'm still journeying, but it led me here, and this is where I'm probably going to stay.
That's incredible. Well, Ann, this might be the most native soil interview we've had. It is our soil itself which brought you here.
Yes, it is.
I never knew that part about the Trinitarian sister.
How about
being
that?
At your parish in New York.
In New York.
The Trinitarians founded in Holy Trinity, Alabama.
Yes.
Their headquarters being there.
Yes.
And I mean, God's providence is amazing. You know, if for those listening, you know, if you don't think God has, He's not in the details of your life, you know, think again, because, you know, stories like these remind us, you know, He really does have very specific concern for each of our lives. And so I want to fill up this soil. We definitely want to harvest as much of this as possible to remember you by.
I appreciate that.
So grateful that the Lord brought you here. And I think time will only prove more and more of His purposes of why. But
I think so.
You've given everyone so much to think about as far as youth ministry, as far as having the courage to step into something new, as far as just your disposition towards your parish, you know, as your home, as your family, as where the Lord is active in your life is just such a wonderful witness for everyone listening. So I'm just so thankful that you make the effort to share with us today.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. You gave me a lot of things to reflect on. I appreciate it.
Wonderful. So we'll close out. I'm going to have you hold your soil and all that represents, and we'll just close by asking God's special blessing over you and your soil, and just thankful that you came.
Thank you.
So, in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Heavenly Father, we praise you, adore you, and love you, and thank you for all your many blessings. Thank you for Ann, and thank you for in your providence bringing her because of the bauxite clay in Eufaula, her and Tom and their wonderful family, for the annulment, for their marriage, for just working in their life, Lord, in so many ways. We're just thankful that you brought them to be part of our archdiocese. Thank you for the years of faith, the years of service to their family and to their parish family. And we just ask your special blessing upon Ann and her family and her soil. And, you know, Father David, Holy Redeemer, just all that soil represents. It represents so much, Lord, but we just ask your special blessing, anointing over her life. And we ask this blessing through the intercession of the Blessed Mother who brought Jesus here on earth. And we ask you continue to use Ann to bring Jesus into the circumstance of her life here on earth. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. Amen. And through her powerful intercession, may God bless you, your soil, and all those listening. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you, Father.
Thank you, Ann. And God bless y'all. And look forward to having you back here with us on Native Soil.